The Kayfabe Crunch is fired up, thanks to the Speed Smoker from Grill Guys. Tenderize a heron and smoke that dumb bird in our Speed Smoker for maximum flavor. Buy one today and receive a free 6-pack of herons, so you too can experiment with the unique, beaky textures. Grill Guys, no animal is off limits.
The Kayfabe Crunch. One more news.
Good news! This is your Kayfabe Crunch for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. I'm Kyle Killswitch. Coming up, we have all the latest from All Out and Raw. Plus, we give you some late summer advice for the wrestling stock market. But first, on this day in grappling history. In 1979, Pat Patterson defeated Bob Backlund via countout in a champion versus champion match. Huge main event, two popular champions, and the match still ends in a countout. And yet, some wrestling fans still think this is a modern problem. That happened in 1979. That's like 80 years ago. Sorry, 81 years ago. And happy 49th birthday to David Arquette. Now, people like to remember Arquette for his disastrous stint with the WCW Championship. But as his run only lasted 12 days, personally, I don't care. Better than Jinder Mahal for half a year, or Diesel for a full one. Come on now. Just before we get to the news, let me make one thing clear to all of the employees here at the Kayfabe Crunch. If you have a Twitch, or a Cameo, or a successful Neopets account, keep going. We appreciate your entrepreneurial spirit and enjoy the cost-free exposure you bring to the brand. It's a wonderful thing you do, thank you. And now, let's get on with the Counter-Claymore news. Top story. It's 3 weeks until Clash of Champions, and you can tell. Orton opened Raw, as is custom, and stated he didn't have time to run down the list of legends he's beaten because Raw only runs 3 hours. Now, I'm a wrestling journalist. So, the more hours of newsworthy events that happen, the more news I get to read and report. Otherwise, I'll be forced to start making things up. But even 4 hours would be a bit much for me. Orton threatened Keith Lee, his opponent once again, before mocking McIntyre for not being able to make it to Clash of Champions. As Orton spoke, a local medical siren chimed out across the Thunderdome to reveal a local medical vehicle carrying a local medical patient. Our champion, Drew McIntyre. The implication here, of course, is that McIntyre has been in the hospital for 2 weeks, then stole an ambulance just hours before he was due to be discharged to drive to the arena to attack Orton. Now it all seems very badass. Until you think about the fact his wife had the car waiting in the parking lot, then it seems unnecessary. The champ attacked Orton and delivered a vicious Claymore kick. Braveheart, but better, was then asked to leave the arena to protect the integrity of the main event. But Drew, you see, he kept doing this thing. Oh, Drew. He kept doing this thing where he'd forget his phone, right? He'd forget his phone and have to go back for it. Oh, what is he like? So he was just trying to hang around the arena, but he was coming up with excuses to stay there. He wanted to stay to beat up Orton, but like and no one realized what he was doing either. It was just sorry, news. Orton was on the brink of defeating Lee, after Lee blocked an RKO in a really cool way, check it out, when McIntyre hit Claymore number 2. Backstage, Orton berated Postman Pierce for not providing enough security. But come on, Randy, It's not his responsibility. He's a postman. Orton looked to be leaving for home, but he was given a third Claymore as a parting gift, to match the 3 punts McIntyre received 2 weeks prior. An eye for an eye has been a overused saying in wrestling this year, but this truly was an eye for an eye. Well, a leg for a leg. Well, 3 legs for 3 legs. I suppose technically And now it's time for your fast count. The independent contractors of news. Entire Mysterio family destroys Murphy with a kendo stick. Even Mrs. Mysterio, who is expected to sign a contract next week and face Seth Rollins.
Cedric Alexander seemingly joins the Hurt Business. He'll start in the mailroom, but if I know my corporate movies, he'll end up on the board by the end of next week.
Known as Retribution finally has a mission statement.
The darkness of Retribution will seep into the pores of every superstar.
They want to be a strong antiperspirant.
Asuka and Mickie James tag each other in and out by spanking. Still, more adherence to tag team rules than on Wednesday nights.
Kevin Owens and Aleister Black fight across 3 Raw Underground segments, implying they brawled for longer than most MMA bouts. Gritty realism.
Cesaro and Nakamura show up on Raw as part of the quarterly brand invitational, which we all definitely remember existing.
Matt Hardy thankfully lives up to the moniker unkillable, but eventually you have to wonder, is it worth finding out?
Chris Jericho loses to Orange Cassidy and lands in a giant vat of mimosa. Jericho's official post-match statement was, and I quote,
"Now listen here, you people with the microphones. I don't need to hear anything about that Satsuma.
Oh, there's more? Okay, yeah. Kenny Omega hints at becoming Kenny Onega at All Out. Was that worth it?
Clash of Champions now has the tagline, Gold Rush. Hopefully it won't be panned. My prospectors look strong. Nuggets.
Ricochet kicks out at 2, but referee counts that... Sorry, was this a busy news week or something? I sort of have plans.
Dominic Mysterio accurately describes breathing as a threat.
I swear it'll be the last breath you ever take in and out.
It's normally 4 bulletins I read and then I'm done. Sorry, no, I make my plans around the format. I've got to read some lines for a dog food commercial.
The Hurt Business attack a janitor, which goes against their promise to clean up on Monday nights.
Well, it's not exactly highly paid, but I can't miss out on work.
Peyton Royce defeats Billie Kay. This match was for custody of the Iconics font. So, back to the font library for Billie Kay. Anything but Comic Sans. Chiller is nice.
It's looping. I can just see the track looping. There's no end.
Shayna and Nia lose a series of 2-on-1 handicap matches. You'd think as the tag team champions, they'd know better.
You've given me nothing else to read. She's still reading things. Why don't I have more news? That was the last one? You promised? Yep, I can say it. And that's your fast count.
You've been counted out. Ask for medical.
And there's just time for a quick look at the wrestling stock markets. This week's advice comes from Big E Stocks. The E stands for investment. It stands for investment. FTR value soars in the AEW markets. So a big well done to anyone who bought shares last month. And to those who didn't, a dark curse on you and your family. Pack shares are still missing overseas. If you find any, please coagulate them with the central processor to redeem maximum value. That's just basic stock advice, ask any economist. And finally, EC3 shares are a very good investment. This stock has the potential to blossom over the winter, but could wither by the spring, without an evolution to an EC4 or 5. Perhaps even a 6. Join us Saturday when we'll ask, did Mandy Rose also leave WWE? And remember, you can support this podcast by listening to episodes you might have missed. Genuinely, it's a great way to find out what the wrestling world was like 3, 6, even 9 months ago. Although the episodes at the start were even worse than these ones, so yeah, maybe 3 to 6 months. Anything older, just leave it. This has been the Kayfabe Crunch, your not quite daily, not quite news bump for the world of professional wrestling.
The Kayfabe Crunch is fired up, thanks to the Speed Smoker from Grill Guys. Don't be the laughingstock of your neighborhood. Buy an indoor smoker in mid-September. It's the perfect appliance for the colder months. Smoke a whole hog to oblivion, all while keeping your child's bedroom warm. Little Liam will learn to love the unique aroma of hog fat.
The Kayfabe Crunch.